Today's today's session, entitled Rethinking Evaluation, Power Equity, and Environmental Justice, is our opportunity for us to be sharing with you parts of what has emerged from a chapter that we have put together. This chapter is part of a book that the Global Environment Facility is collating and publishing this year, that emerged from a meeting that they had last year in March to look at evaluation of the environment and development. And so the chapter title is oh, I thought I had it saved. The chapter title is looking at really just these issues of how evaluations can support a socially just transition to planetary health. And you can look out for the Jeff book later on this year, which will be entitled Integrating for Sustainability Evaluation Across Environmental and Socioeconomic Domains. And so the objectives of today are that we hope that by the end of our session that you will have an understanding of some of the key lessons from global examples of how equity has been embedded in evaluations. And not just equity, but really trying to understand how power needs to be shifting within these evaluations to really be able to achieve a true sense of equity. We also hope that through this session that you will be considering the role of evaluation as a tool to promote a socially just transition to planetary health. So quickly, just the agenda. So we'll start out with a brief introduction to the chapter and to kind of the content or our approach in how we approached the chapter and these issues of power and this social ecological conceptual framework. And then Celeste and Sue will be sharing cases from work that they've done in the past couple of years that are really looking to rebalance these issues of power and of equity. Then we'll have some time for us to engage in small conversations and really just reflect personally in terms of what this means for us and examples that you might have yourselves about how you have brought in issues of power and issues of equity, which will be then shared and taken down by Ian Goldman. So I want to introduce briefly the speakers today. So as I mentioned, Sonal Zaveri, who is an Academy board member and is the director at GENSA, she's quite unwell. She has contracted some kind of mosquito-borne virus, and so we really hope that she is recovering well. But in her place, we have Ian has stepped in to also assist in this conversation. But our two main speakers are Celeste Guiano, who is an Academy friend. She's the former chair for the Latin America Evaluation Association. She's part of the Eval Indigenous Latin America grouping, and then is leading alternative evaluation. And then Sue Sol, who is an independent evaluator, a facilitator, and a process consultant. So the conceptual framework. So in the past couple of years, more than the past couple of years, there's been quite a lot of I think, debate about the role of evaluation and whether evaluation should maintain its objectivity, its neutrality, it should be impartial, and that is somehow at odds with taking a more values-based approach to evaluation and an approach that focuses on inclusion and on social justice. Ian Goldman might say something a little bit later, but in the Academy, there's a lot of work right now on this, the Three Horizons framework. We had a session on that yesterday. And this dichotomy between kind of objectivity and social justice is one of those dichotomies in the Three Horizons that we're looking to start shifting, and that we need to really do need to start understanding that evaluation can have a role in social justice, and in improving specific outcomes for inclusion and equity and so on. So part of our, for the book, for the chapter, sorry, part of our framework was taking work that was done by Jennifer Wilkins, who is a post-growth economist, and she has founded an organization called the Heliocene, and she gave a talk at the end of last year, really trying to explore this idea of a social ecological framework, where we're starting to really pay much more attention to um, alternative knowledge systems and alternative ways of engaging in our economy and in our social world. I'm going to stop sharing so that Ian can play a short clip of a video where she's explaining this framework.
I think it's more illuminating to map
Can you hear it?
economic movements across social and ecological logics in relation to capitalism, which is our dominant economic logic. And so I've put the 8 movements that were on the previous table into this map, and you can see that there's a sort of a diagonal belt of social ecological movements arranged at various distances from the capitalist logic. And even beyond them, there's another paradigm which blends the social and the ecological with the cosmological, and that's where we would position indigenous economies. And you can see that 2 ideas are not social ecological, which I should probably explain. So steady state economics has an ecological logic based on the concept of hard physical limits. It does not have a social logic. And neoliberalism has neither a social logic nor an ecological logic. It is purely focused on increasing capital. So here I've put some more movements onto the map, and you can see that there is a sort of a big grouping on the bottom left, which is more or less reconciling capitalism with environmentalism. And this really exposes that there is a capitalist narrative that frameworks like TCFD, TNFD, carbon credits, biodiversity credits, these sorts of things are core to sustainability, when actually you can see on this mapping that they're quite peripheral. So this bullish capitalist claim, it crowds out social aims such as addressing inequality and shortcomings in human needs and freedoms. And when we look across the movements that are in the blue ellipse, and all of those are seeking to balance social and ecological aims, this really draws out, I think, one of the most appealing features of new economics, which is the revival of core human values of caring, solidarity, and autonomy that are really absent from the dominant sort of environmentalist sustainability discourse. And despite some of the differences in this blue ellipse between the different affinities with capitalism, it's really clear that there's some very powerful allegiances that could be formed on social ecological terms. So I think the blue ellipse is the collective that's best positioned to build a future in which society and nature flourish.
Great. As you saw with that little short clip of the video, and we can share the full video with you because it is quite a nice way of considering alternatives to the current capitalist system that we're in, and the ways in which the capitalist system is exploitative on us, both in terms of our environmental, the exploitation in terms of our environment, but also in terms of our humans and the ecological space, and this need to start shifting out and really changing that framework. So we also had as key to our kind of approach for the article was this idea of really trying to understand and start shifting these concepts of power. So this is a table that Sonal adapted from an article by Robin Luckham. And as you can see, there's these different categories of forms of power. There's the power over, there's the power to, there's the power with, and there's the power within. And those I think many people are quite familiar with as a typical set of kind of the forms of power. And then for this paper purpose, we added in the power to empower. And then looking at the rows, we have the different kind of positions of power, whether it's power from above, power on a more horizontal or lateral lane, and then power from below. And so in the framing of the paper, we wanted to really start looking at these issues of power and work more towards that idea of power to empower, where from a bottom-up perspective, there is the convening and empowerment that takes place on the group's own terms, that it's something that is naturally developing and is really then positioned within the people that are part of the interventions that are taking place. So with that kind of very broad overview of the approach, I'm going to turn it over to Celeste and to Sue to talk about the specific cases that they brought to the article. Celeste?
Okay, thank you, Jen. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to me to be here and share this panel with my colleagues and International Evaluation Academy friends. And thank you for being in this session today. I will share the case of the Andean communities and the Amazonian communities that we had the honor to present in Colombia last June. Trying to visualize alternative ways and frames to develop different processes. So this case was supported by Evaluation's community and 4 foundations, and it's part of the blossoming activities in a big project that I had the honor to coordinate in 2024-2025. So in this activity, we have the opportunity to co-organize with my colleague Adriana Anacona from Colombia. She's an indigenous evaluator. She's Yanacuna, is from the Yanacuna community. So organized with her and her community, which will participate in Andes, in the Colombian Massive, with the Yanacuna community. The first Minga, and share with you some ideas of the Minga, what it means and what it's about. And the second case is in the same activity. We went to the Amazonas with the Intercultural Amazonian Network. So in the first case, to give you more background, in the Valle de las Papas, it's the massive in Colombia, one of the massives. There are 21 families live from the farm, from potato sowing, harvesting, cow milk, bleaching. They have developed a tourism experience called Yakutumiam. It means the waterway, or the way of the water. As you know, all Aboriginal communities and local communities have a lot of relation with nature, So you can see there are some pictures on the top. On the right top panel is a páramo or a moor. A moor is like the temple for them. They go to pray and reflect there with their gods. So we had the opportunity to go with them there and see the way they think about the relation with nature and communities and other communities. Of course, as you know, it is Colombia, and in Colombia they have a lot of difficult situations related to peace building. So there was a hard experience there with the families. They live they have a difficult way of living there. They have some difficult conflict with armed groups, you know. So yeah, it was a very rich experience that they could share with us. In the second case, in the Amazonas, with the Intercultural Amazonian Network, 64 Aboriginal communities met there. They was previously organized. We were invited there, and we met with them. They were hosted by the Tipuna community. The Tipuna community is there in the Amazonas, in between Colombia, Brazil, and Peru. It's in the border. And they share with us their way of living and the way of thinking, doing, and thinking about our relation with everyone and everything. So you can see there in the pictures the maloca. The maloca is that big house you can see there, and we have the opportunity to meet there, and it was a great opportunity to understand the way of living and as I say, doing and sensing and speaking, thinking about this area. So can we go to the next one, James? Thanks. So what emerged here for us? First of all, we could understand about the Minga. You know, what is the Minga? Minga is like an invitation, you know, an invitation to meet. Previously, we were thinking about Minga as a moment, as you can see there, around and people meeting and talking about problems, and this is a little part of the Minga, as we say, Minga mode, because they live in Minga mode. I will say you about this in my conclusions. So Minga, depart from a pre-colonial system. Yes, you know, they have their own ways of community work, government, and justice. And this kind of activity that is one of them, the Minga, like collective and community work with social activity and physical characters, is based on the Chacana. Maybe you have heard about the Chacana as the organizer of life. It's that cross you can see there. It's like the Southern Cross, La Cruz del Sur, and all communities in the Andean specifically use the Andean cross, the Chacana, as they say. This organizer of life, this cross, is used for a lot of activities, not only for the media, for every life activity and relations. And you can see there are 4 dimensions: the spiritual one, the one related to the reason, the one related to the emotions, and the one related to the material world. Beyond that, you can see that they think about those 4 dimensions in 3 levels. You can see the relation with nature, the relation with others, and the relation with oneself. You know, so this is really important to think about. We say criteria and to think alternatively, you know? If you think, as Jen says at the beginning, we are always thinking about objectivity, relevance, efficiency, etc. And maybe if we can go locally, we can think about criteria related to the spiritual way. The spiritual way is not all the time thought about religion, you know, it's about our relation with ourselves, our relation with nature. You know that Aboriginal communities have a lot of gods related to nature. So as a parenthesis, I want to share that we had visited in this trip in Sac community. It's a community near there that think about life as a growing spiral, you know. So they have a lot of way to think about life and the way of doing life that they name life differently, you know. So it's talking about Minga and this collective and community work, because it is not about individual way of thinking, you know, of course, it's about the community. It has two principles: to collaborate with everyone, to share a common purpose, and to promote reciprocity. As you can see there in the middle of the cross, you can see a symbol, like I think it's the dynamism, and it's about the way of living in giving and receiving. We say in Spanish, mano cambiada, or I give you and you give me, and we share in different moments. So we help each other constantly, you know. So this is the way of thinking of that. So when we were documenting the Minga, we were thinking about not a new methodology, not a new technique, but a frame to think differently, criteria for evaluation, for doing evaluation processes and thinking evaluation criteria alternatively, you know, thinking about the extent to we could grow ourselves, the extent to we could recover some rights, you know, thinking about community that has lost a lot of, you know. So this is the first learn we have. Can we go to the next one, please? So some lessons we share in the article was about the Minga. As I said, it's not only a moment. It is called an invitation, but it's not an invitation to a certain moment, you know, it's an invitation to share your thoughts, your learnings, and all you have voluntarily for the community. So we like to say that they live in media modes, you know, because every decision is made collectively for the community. So thinking about power equity, well, you have there this kind of power and equity together, you know, because they empower themselves, and they think that even when they have hierarchies, you know, they have equity there in the moments of decision. Of course, this is a cosmological worldviews that recognize equal relationships between humans and nature, you know, because as we say and they say, we are part of nature. What another key lessons I share with you before is that communities use their own ancestral terms, and if we could, as evaluators, engage with those local terms, we could make better criteria to evaluate. For example, the Chacana as organizer of life could be, in this case, one of the organizers of our criteria. As I say, empowerment arises from within the community, and they think about this dynamism, giving and receiving as as reciprocity and solidarity. We won't save individually, and it is actually clear. And as I said, Minga is, or this kind of work, collective work, is not another technique, it's a relational way. So we like to say that it could be a frame to think about alternative evaluations. It's a different way to understand and think about development. Here in Latin America, we have our evaluation standards, and one of the concepts we share is the concept of development differently to those concepts related to the capitalism concepts. We think in development of oneself with others, with our community, and with neighbors and stuff. We have a great experiences in Bolivia, Ecuador, and in Colombia, of course. And thinking about to end my presentation, thinking about some competencies needed, because in the arts we start talking about that, thinking about the scan we need to do to ourselves as evaluators. We talked there about reflexivity, about evaluative consciousness, to think about what are our those positive things we have and rights we have that a lot of people doesn't have. So maybe we need to think about the lens we use when we are evaluating. So and the second competency, big competency we need to exercise is integrate local knowledge and facilitate equitable evaluations. Of course, we have great strengths now. We put responsive evaluation, indigenous knowledge systems. So maybe we have a lot to learn from them. So I will stop here. I will pass the floor to Sue, and then I will share in the chat the video of Linda and some of the patient for cognitive evaluation, etc. I'm happy to continue participating. Thanks.
Thank you, Celeste. And thanks everyone for being here. Nice to be here and present. I'm going to present two short case stories, both from South Africa. And you'll see it's my name and my colleague Karen Kochi's name here. Unfortunately, Karen can't be with us, but I'll present a case from each of us. So yeah, it's really nice coming in after Celeste, because I think you'll see the three cases sort of build a picture going from this very beautiful, grounded account of working, I think, at a community level and working very much with Indigenous knowledge and knowledge systems. And then the Tsitsa project you'll see is working a sort of a little bit still working at community level, but our case talks more to our approach and our systems and the actual realities on the ground. And then the last case you'll see takes us into policy and approach to evaluation, even at a global level. So speaking to the Tsitsa project, first of all, this is the one that Karen worked on for our paper. Tsitsa was a project based in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa, which is a province that's undergone a lot of historical trauma, but even at a governance level. Currently pretty tricky, not the strongest governance in the country. It's a land rehabilitation project and based in the grasslands of that province. It was a long-term project, lasted over 5 years or more, with the goals of restoration of both ecological and governance systems. So using the idea of restoration to speak not only to ecological goals, but also in our South African context, very much goals of our governance, trying to do some restoration work there. And then, of course, creating regenerative livelihood opportunities. So yeah, livelihood and yeah, people taking care of their own livelihood needs is a big feature of our work in landscape in South Africa at the moment. And Tsitsa is quite a big flagship project working at that. the M&E system was developed from the start. Sorry, I meant to time myself, but then I forgot to, so I'm just going to start it now so I can keep an eye on my timing. The M&E system was built in from the start as a process of developmental accompaniment. There was never an idea that the evaluator is a neutral observer, neither sort of episodic coming in at points nor summative coming in at the end. Rather, the evaluation function was built in from the start, with the task of enabling and supporting inclusion as broadly as possible in the evaluation project. But you'll see, of course, if you're working in an accompaniment way as an evaluator, your inclusion then becomes relevant also for project implementation, not just the M&E functions of the project. And there you see some idea of active empowerment of beneficiaries or participants in the project. So we can go to the next slide, Jen. Thank you. So what was the Tsitsa approach? I think the thing that we want to really emphasize here, obviously it wasn't the only approach and was very grounded in data and sort of thorough data gathering techniques, but was to do all of this using a relational approach. So the idea that in South Africa, our attempts to address historical and contemporary injustices and even bring about some kind of redress can be layered into even the relatively technical function of monitoring and evaluation. And that the way into that is to work relationally. So what does it mean? Yes, it means being friendly and nice and accessible and being careful in how you work, of course. But it also can be a framework to really help you understand practices that perhaps reinforce unhelpful power dynamics, even perpetuate really problematic power relationships. So really to use relationality as a framework for understanding power, not just for being a better practitioner. So for example, in the monitoring process, in Tsitsa's work at getting local perspectives in, even indicators for well-being were developed together with communities. And what we found was, or what they found was, not only, obviously, we hope, were the indicators relevant and meaningful to people on the ground, but that very process of developing the indicators changed the power dynamics between researchers and local communities, taking things to a more equal or co-learning approach. And if we go to the next slide, so how did this play out in practice? There's this fantastic line in the Tsitsa case study where they were talking about capability pathways. So the idea that an accompanied monitoring or developmental monitoring and evaluation approach can help develop capacities in the system being evaluated is one that we probably all very familiar with, and also one I'll talk to in our next case. But what they did was they described the actual capabilities, and it's fantastic because you can see there all of these capabilities are developed together in these relationships that have been developed as well. So they envisaged moving from co-knowing to co-listening, co-speaking, co-planning, co-design, co-influencing, and co-deciding, finally to co-acting and co-adapting. And I just think the language of that is really wonderful because it really reinforces for the practitioners that everything we're doing is done in a collaborative, relational way. But despite the resourcing, despite these amazing intentions, despite monitoring and evaluation being factored in from the start, they also acknowledge that after 5 years, the project had not yet achieved those end results of co-influencing, co-deciding, or co-acting and co-adapting. And I'm sure that's a reality we all face a lot. We go in with the best of intentions and things get a bit undone. And I'll speak a bit to that in my next cases as well. So for the Tsitsa team, it underscores the need for sustained relationships to develop a genuinely inclusive and collaborative working approach. What we found when we considered my case that I brought in is even more than that is needed. It's not just about good practice, although you see in our next heading, capacities and skills and resources are needed. We need very particular capacities and skills and resources as evaluators. I think Celeste also spoke to that in her presentation, but something else is also needed, and I'm going to speak a bit to that in the next case. So we can flip, Jen. Thank you. So I, some years ago, did a review for the small grant facility. And the question that came up, which I'm going to speak a little bit more to now, is were we developing capacity for adaptation, or were we actually just developing capacity for compliance, not appliance? So the small grants facility was a project funded by the Adaptation Fund between 2015 and 2021, which was offering South Africa and our SANBI is our national implementing entity, the South African National Biodiversity Institute of South Africa, offering it the opportunity to pilot a small grants facility for enabling local level responses to climate change in South Africa. So very much climate adaptation focused, funded by a multilateral institution, a small scale experiment, 5-year experiment, working with initiatives in 2 separate districts of South Africa and 12 project settings. But the idea was that it could be or should be taken to scale, and that we were going to pioneer a model that could be rolled out more broadly in the country, and that has and is coming to pass. The idea was that it would build adaptive capacity and deliver a range of tangible local benefits. And there you already have a dual kind of objective. The tangible local benefits ranged from people building mud dams to shelters for shepherds to trying to remember something like that, a savings club for women who could then improve their houses to be more adapted to changing weather conditions. Very grounded, very particular projects that were obliged to deliver tangible, as in visible, observable, measurable local benefits, but also that people more broadly, or these communities more broadly, would be better equipped to adapt to climate change in an ongoing way. We thought it was a contribution to both environmental and social justice. Environmental, I think, is pretty self-evident in the adaptation intentions of the project, but also social, partly because the project was organized in a very interesting way. We had a multilateral global donor, we had a national implementing entity, we had an executing entity, we had facilitating agencies, we had beneficiaries, we had recipients of small grants, and then we had beneficiaries. So it was the 6 tiers, and the idea was that people were involved and participating throughout. The midterm review itself had some adaptation goals, which is that it happened in the middle of the project, and the idea was that it would help the project to change if change was needed. So we can go to the next slide. What we found in the midterm review, and there were many findings, but this is the main one for the purposes of this presentation, that the environmental and social safeguards, which we're all familiar with, particularly with globally funded initiatives, were stringent, correctly so, but all the risk associated with them, and I would say all, was cascaded downwards, which we know with a risk mitigation model often is the case, but it's not very helpful when those at the bottom, on the receiving end of the risk cascading, are themselves people who are struggling in a whole lot of ways, who are poor, who are marginal, who may not be fully literate, who are sort of being yanked around with a whole lot of other compliance requirements. And so what we found was that this cascading down of the risks led to systemic impacts, which maybe were even undoing some of the best intentions of the project. So perhaps capacity to adapt was being reduced, certainly reputational damage of the projects, and perceptions that they weren't trusted by the higher ups. But then that, of course, perpetuated a feeling of mistrust more locally as well. So the midterm review recommended that the hierarchical system needed to be more dynamic and responsive, and dynamic meaning change going both ways. And you can imagine what happened there. Okay, we can go to the last slide. So how was it? And I've titled the slide Reflecting on Practice, but is it reflecting on practice only, or is it also reflecting on the system? So we were saying for M&E that is working in support of social and ecological justice to really have an effect, it's not just a question of good practice. It really has to, it's the findings of the evaluation or the monitoring activities need to be cascaded upwards. They need to make impact or landfall upwards, not just downwards. And that the whole system needs to be able to utilize findings and implement changes, not just obey recommendations. What we found instead was that administrative power and compliance is invisibilized, it's unremarked in project management. And so instead of building capacity to adapt, one of the key findings of the midterm review was that this project was also, very importantly, building capacity to comply in very, very marginal grassroots communities. This is not a bad thing, because it means they're administratively way more competent. But it was not the intention of the project to build capacity to comply. In fact, it was a major confounder. So we said this leaves one half of the problem, which is beneficiary compliance, under scrutiny, without the other problem, which we could call unsuitable accountability mechanisms being described, or not even being described, never mind subject to critical scrutiny. And so while monitoring and evaluation for social and ecological justice can achieve a lot in its methods, it can't achieve all of its objectives, because something else needs to change in order for that to really come off. So that's me. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Celeste and Sue, for your two case or the three cases that you've described. We are intending to go into a few breakaway rooms and just allow people to have a discussion based on these cases and the kind of maybe what you are thinking as listening. But I do want to give an opportunity if there are any specific questions that people might have to either Celeste or Sue. Particularly if you have, if you want some clarification or further examples. If there are no questions, then we can go into the breakaways. And people can feel free to unmute. Okay, so for the breakaway, we have about 10 minutes. It's just a really kind of really short session where we just want to encourage that people have opportunity to discuss among each other some of what you're feeling and thinking about the session, any examples of practice in your own work, and then also kind of pulling off of what Sue has just described in terms of issues within the system that we need to change to help to facilitate this idea of really fostering power to empower within our evaluation approach. I will put this into the chats of the rooms so that everybody has it, because I think people have started going into the rooms. But yes, about 10 minutes, and then it will be a very informal report back.
Let's capture something of what you covered, and I mean, anybody either put it in the chat or voice it. Even better, voice it. Somebody want to go?
Yeah, Hype, I don't know if you feel comfortable to express some of what you were expressing in the group.
Okay, so I thought that like the case studies, I really liked the way how cooperative they were, like how we involved the local community and use their culture and their understanding in M&D and evaluation. I think this is really very important. This was one point. Another point, sorry, I'm having a short memory at the, uh, but yeah, I mean, both case studies, this way of cooperative methods, this was very important for me. How we can implement it. How we can implement it in my case in Lebanon, not sure. I need to like discuss it with my colleagues, but it's something to think about how we can update or work on our systems to be more proactive in cooperation and making sure that people are involved in our M&E, not when we're talking to them and during the data collection and this phases, this is covered, but in the preliminary phases, maybe when we're thinking about the program, formulating the program, and also after we do evaluations or having the results afterward to make sure that we're sharing results and also take their feedback, and based on their feedback change, also do some changes on the system. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Haifa. And Sibongile, I think you were also had some ideas of what struck you.
Oh yes, so I was saying from Sue, that whole concept of co-influencing, co-adapting. I can't remember the other ones, but I thought that was quite interesting and something that I think would be ideal, obviously, for like in the evaluation practice for people to actually utilize. And just similar to what Heifer was saying, that I also liked how they said in terms of developing the M&E system right from the inception of the program, they were developing indicators with local people. So it wasn't done separately, which I think it's good practice.
Yeah, and Sue, I mean, I know you weren't on that project specifically, but it would be interesting to know a little bit more about like what were the challenges around the co-influencing? Because you said it worked, all of the co's worked well up to a certain point, and then it sort of fizzled out. And what were the reasons, if you know that more?
So this is not the kind of documented nor all of the reasons, but I know that one of the challenges that Pizza shared along with others is when you've got such a longitudinal experiment and not experiment, experience, and you're so inside of the organizational processes, the evaluation function sort of becomes a bit subject to organizational processes as well. So you have, turnover, people coming and going. And so you become part of the ordinary ecosystem or social system of the place rather than the specialist intervention that maybe can start seeing a before, a during, and an afterwards, an outcome. So I know that was one of the challenges that they had, was just, that continuous replenishing of capacity as there's turnover and change and resistance and so on. But that's just one little memory I have of Karen's rueful reflection on things.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't say this in the group discussion, but Celeste, I really the Minga, that little diagram that you shared about the Chakana was really interesting, and something I would like to understand more, explore more, because it really is that switch as you were describing of how me and my American European mindset doesn't, I mean, I understand it in the picture, but like in reality and so on, how to
Yes.
get there.
You know, in the breakout session, I was here in Haifa, and I was thinking about the importance of the way we name things, the name we give to things, not only the concepts, not only the significance, but the significance to give the name. So thinking about the chacana or every symbol we have in life, we need to think about the names. So thinking about indicators and thinking about working collectively, I was wondering about the way in which we involve people, involve communities, thinking about how we are writing about our processes in evaluation. For example, if we are talking about the team, only the team is going to the team, but maybe we need to talk about the community, using the community will. So that's the way in which we communicate the things will give us more flexibility and will allow us to involve better civil and legitimized processes, because we have a strong history, of extractivism in information. So thinking about involving people and the experience we had in India, it was like 5%. We had 2 important meetings with representatives, with community representatives, to structure and organize the meeting and the Linga and sharing our thoughts, our ideas, and they share with us their thoughts and their ideas. So then we have a good agreement, about what we are going to do in this meeting. So as we say in evaluation processes, we think about working collectively from the beginning, and then after that, and it was like this in the Linga experience, we couldn't publish this video I shared with you without asking the community and the elders, So we asked the permission of the community to share it. So we had it was a difficult, some difficulties, with the donors, because the donors say, okay, in May you need to present for me the report, and we couldn't, because we couldn't have the video to publish until we have the permission of the community. So we had had to negotiate, with the donors to tell, okay, we need your little bit more time because the community is having some armed conflicts, with within the massive. So yes, we need more time, and times are different, in the communities and yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And just picking up on that thing about language, I mean, I think also English is very restricted in some ways. We have words that have kind of, I don't know, like they have multiple meanings, but even still, like it's restrictive. Whereas in a lot of other languages, there could be many different meaning words for very specific kinds of interactions and so on. And so, yeah, something very interesting. Any other reflections from the discussion? And I know we have 2 people who joined after the presentation, so you're very welcome here. Apologies that you didn't get to listen into the case studies. In the chat, I've put the video that Celeste was just referring to about the Minga case. Sue, I don't know if you want to share the link to the other article that you and Karen have co-authored, where these cases are also shared. But we will be when the chapter comes out, when the draft book comes out from which all of these cases are shared, that will be also made available.
Oh, great. Thanks, Jen. Sorry, I don't have it prepared here. I can try find it in
Okay, no
seconds, but
worries.
yeah, we'll add it to the general inbound.
No worries. Ian, I think we can move. Can you just carry on to the next slide since you have it shared?
Hang on a second. Too many things in the way.
Okay. So as we start closing, I just wanted to pull some concluding remarks from our chapter, and some that struck me as I was reviewing the chapter again yesterday was just kind of recognizing that to ensure that evaluation really contributes meaningfully to transformation, we as evaluators need to also be aware of our role in addressing power asymmetries and be intentional in embedding equity and sustainability into our evaluation practice. Second, that recognizing visible, hidden, and invisible power structure is essential to ensuring that evaluations serve marginalized communities rather than perpetuating existing inequities. As Celeste was talking about, just the fact that there typically evaluation, or at least in the past, has been and does in some cases continue to be extractive, and how we need to really be aware of how we're going about what we're doing and alter our approaches. And then to promote transformative change, we must embrace multiple worldviews, challenge dominant narratives, and foster participatory and community-driven approaches. And with that, I would like to offer Sue, Celeste, and Ian a minute or so if you want to have any concluding remarks. Ian, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the Academy and the work the Academy is doing, how this fits in with the Academy's work.
So the Academy is committed to seeing how evaluation can contribute to addressing the polycrisis. And part of the polycrisis, we always tend to always think about the climate and ecosystems, but actually equity and is a huge component of the crisis. And as we showed with that Jennifer Wilkins video, the link between capitalism and how it does not take account of social ecological issues is critical. So we've been doing a process to look at the future evaluation and how it can address this through the Three Horizons process. We had a session yesterday, and that will be recorded for those who want to see it. And this work on we're doing 2 articles at the moment around gender and equity, and another one about environmental sustainability in a special edition of the Journal of Multidisciplinary Evaluation. These are core issues for us, which we will be taking forward, going forward. Thanks.
Sorry, my mic is not working so good, but I just wanted to say that I would like to congratulate International Evaluation Academy for visualizing these terms, these conflicts, because there are conflicts, and I think here is a matter of frames, maybe we need to change our lens to change practices. So I give my applause and support to the International Evaluation Academy for giving us this opportunity to discuss these alternative ways to think and give new frames to evaluation process.
Thanks. And Sue?
Yeah, similarly, I'm always struck by how preparation for an event like this really sharpens one's own thinking. So thank you very much, everyone, for the opportunity and for your listening. And it's certainly given me a lot to think about, both in the preparation and in the hearing of the other presentations and perspectives. So thank you. Yeah, this thing of changing the system, we've got to, especially as the world changes so radically as it has done in the last few months, we've we've got to stay alert to all of that. So
Mhm.
thanks.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for your time today in this session, and the video will be shared, I believe, by the Academy, and we look forward to engaging with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.